We're in chapter 6, text 16. We're reading the purport right now. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not fresh offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. So, very important verse, very practical, because now most of you are thinking 6 hours, really? How? And that's why it is the food intake that is the important part. If you eat too much, you will see you, if you have something heavy like paneer butter masala or biryani or something like that, of course you're going to be more sleepy. And even if you're sleeping, you'll feel that after waking up also you feel a little drowsy. And that's because it's just natural. It is, you're going against nature. So if you see great yogis, they're very thin. Why? Because they eat only as much as required to keep the body and soul together. It is described in Ayurveda. I have heard, I've not read it, but I've heard that our stomach is supposed to be the size of the fist, right? That's how much food we should eat. And we all, I shouldn't say we all, but many of us here don't eat that much. We eat a lot more than that, and as including myself. And as a result, we sleep more and we need more rest because the body needs more energy to digest the food, etc., etc. Now, I'll tell you a personal tool that I use when preaching Krishna consciousness. People ask me, "Oh, what is so special about the lifestyle?" Because in different people, generally, religion means go to a temple on a Sunday, 2 hours a week, little puja, this. For us, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a few hours a day. So people say, what's the use of this lifestyle? What is so special about it? And I say, I live a yoga friendly lifestyle. I eat yoga friendly food, and in other words, prasadam. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that eating the food that is to keep the body and soul together, that means food that is easy to digest. Meat or fish or anything animal derived is a little harder. Even paneer is a little harder to digest for the body. That doesn't, I'm not rebuking anyone over here. Please don't feel judged by me. That's not what I'm here for. All I'm saying is that it is not the best suited food for the body. And later on, I think in chapter 16 and chapter 13, Krishna covers, he talks about uh, I think it's chapter 13, where he talks about the different modes and the different food. Those modes, sattvic food, rajasic food, tamasic food. So sattvic food makes you healthy, expands your lifespan. Rajasic food is extremely spicy or extremely salty or extremely putrid, too pungent, too much onion, garlic, and things like that. So they reduce your lifespan. They are stimulants. They aggravate you. So if you want to be a yogi with a steady mind, you have to have sattvika heart. You cannot be having stimulants like caffeine, chocolates, onion, garlic, and expect to have a calm mind, because that's not what they do. They agitate us. So you see Red Bull or caffeine and things like that. People drink. Why? Because I'm feeling sleepy. My body wants to rest, but I want to keep going. So I'm going to stuff in more and more stimulants in my body so I can keep waking up. Now, is that hurting the body? Certainly. You push the body beyond its limits, you age faster, right? So when I explain to people the yoga friendly lifestyle, I talk about the sleep. This verse where it's about moderate sleep, moderate eating, and moderate entertainment. Krishna says later on also, Nitya Ahara Viharasya, right? Uh, Appropriate eating, appropriate sleep, appropriate entertainment is also important. You know, if you have too much entertainment or too much sleep or too much food, then the balance is wasted. So anything rajasic is always too much, right? When I was in college back in the US, we used to have parties. And if that was not enough, after 2 o'clock, we would have after parties, right? Till 4 o'clock, that would go. And then there is club hopping and or whatever else, and midnight breakfast and all of that. There was no end to the fun that one can have. I have never drank alcohol, but I've been in those parties, and it's kind of like, wow. In India, there is self gratification, but in the US, it's like a whole different level. People don't know when to stop. And guess what? Next day, as college students, we have labs and classes, and we are sleeping in the class. Why? Because last night was party, somebody's birthday or something. If somebody's 21st birthday, forget it. It's go vodka, rum, this, that. The fellow is throwing up all night long, right? And that's supposed to be enjoyment. Anyway, the point is too much excessiveness is in the Rajasic platform, right? Sattvic is defined by balance, right? You earn, you donate, you offer to God, etc., etc. Everything, right? Food, you eat just enough, you sleep just enough. My spiritual master, my guru, actually, somebody mentioned, she, so my spiritual master's, what do you call, his room is opposite, is close to the Mataji's ashram, the women's ashram in the temple in Chicago. And one lady who used to who spent a week there, she was saying that your spiritual master, when he goes to sleep and when he wakes up, it's exactly 6 hours. Like you can set your watch according to it. It's so precise. Now he's practicing Krishna consciousness for 50 years. So obviously, he has a very regulated lifestyle. He's a sannyasi and all that. But the point is, his efficiency is mind blowing. He is his efficiency is that of a CEO multiplied by three. You know, because he's managing thousands of disciples, their lives, their problems, questions, emails. Then there are ISKCON as a global organization with 600 plus temples and colleges and restaurants and whatnot, right? Plus there is lawsuits and this and that, all the materialistic problems that are there. And he's giving Bhagavatam class to complete Krishna consciousness, as if nothing is wrong with his life. Completely chilled out. I remember driving my spiritual master once from the airport to the temple. There was a very, crazy phone conversation, big problem, big red flags, a lot of problems. He's solving that complicated conversations. He walks into the temple, right into the Vyasasana, sits there, gives Bhagavatam class. And the entire Bhagavatam class, I'm just looking at him and I'm wondering, wow, when I get stressed, I'm like thinking about like how to solve this problem. Him, that was one aspect, moved on to this. Now he's here, right now, talking about Krishna as if there is nothing else that exists in the world. And that is the power of meditation for decades and decades, where you can really be now in the present without being affected by the past or the future. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, na shochati, na kankshati, no lamentation, no hankering. Right? No lamentation about the past, no hankering about the future. A yogi is present now. At this moment, what is important? What needs to be done? Without being influenced by the past or the future. Generally, what we go through is, oh man, like, today only I was looking at one of our stocks. I just sold the stock. I never sell stocks. I sold the stock and I was like, man, that just went up like skyrocketed. I should have sold it. So lamenting about the past. And otherwise, future hankering, like, oh, I wish I could have this and I could. So a yogi is somebody who's in the present. And if you're in the present, only then your future can change, right? If you're in the past or in the future, you're never in the present. So you're not doing anything to change what's going to happen in the future. So it's very, very important to understand these yogic principles, to be in the present. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're focusing on Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So every syllable, that's training the mind to be with the sound vibration. And when you go through the day, you're in a meeting with someone, you're with that person 100% without what my phone is saying, what somebody else is yelling, what the ambulance is shouting out there, or what's in the news. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. That's what throughout the day, this process, helps us be present where we are right now. And science has also proven that we are not meant to be multitasking. We are meant to be, you know, uh, doing one thing at a time, and that's efficiency, right? So here it's saying that there is no possibility of once becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or too little. If you're too little, you'll be like, I'm hungry, doesn't feel good. Many of you might be doing keto diets or intermittent fasting and all that. It does affect on our consciousness, right? And sometimes we eat too much and we are like falling asleep, efficiency gone. So just enough to keep body and soul together. So again, eating what? Eating sattvic food, right? Vegetarian diet. So that is the easiest to digest for the body, not too spicy, right? Too much chili, it hurts the mucus in the belly. Too much sour, too much anything hurts the insides of our body, and eventually ulcer and things like that can happen. So it's important to have sattvic diet, that the body doesn't have to spend too much energy in digesting it. Thereby, the blood doesn't go too much in the belly. It is there in the brain, so you can think and do stuff. Do what is important, right? Be high efficiency. There's a video I have made on YouTube. You can watch. It's called Living a High Performance Lifestyle, right? And that talks about these aspects, because for a CEO, for an entrepreneur, we live high performance lifestyle. We are having to do the work that three people do. We are Maharathis in one sense, right? And to be Maharathis, we need to have a high performance lifestyle. It cannot be we act like average people and want to live an extraordinary life. It won't work. We will burn out ourselves. Our relationships will suffer. This is what happens generally, right? We work too much, and then when we come back to our home, to our kids, to our spouses, we're like, don't disturb me. I'm too busy. I'm too stressed. Don't talk to me. And your mood is bad. And guess what? It affects them in their lives. In fact, there was a study that was done that showed that in schools, the bullies, when they were researched, what is wrong? Why do some people bully other kids? It is because their parents don't give them time. Their parents are having issues. They're splitting apart. That mental agony is causing pain in their heart, and they're inflicting pain on other people. And we all know, some of us have been bullied, including myself as kids, right? And when you get bullied, when you're on the other side of the receiving side, it creates a tremendous amount of impact on one's consciousness, one's self-esteem, one's confidence, and that impacts their life. So basically, if you're not Nityahara Vihara, if you're not having a balanced diet, balanced sleep, balanced entertainment, a balanced life, you will misbehave with your family members. They will have an impact on people surrounding their lives. And you are actually impacting society by not balancing your life in the proper way. Right? Now, we cannot change other people. We are living in Kali Yuga. This is how it is. We can change ourselves. If we can at least influence the community we are in, our colleagues at office, our family members, at least that's the impact we have. Because it is a chain reaction, because those people will have impact on others. If we are kind and compassionate to our children, they will go to school and they will show respect to their teachers. They will show kind and compassion to their friends. And those friends will, receive that love that you've given to your child, and that love will nourish them. And thereby, this moves on. You don't know how you're impacting other people, but you are, right? And it starts with ourselves. Starts with self-control, control of what we eat, how much we sleep, etc., etc. Now, from a karma perspective, if we sleep too much, and we like to sleep, some people, I had some friends who like to sleep 12 to 14 hours a day. Now, for such people, there is a different body that is available, like a bear, where they can hibernate 6 months a year, right? The human body is meant for a higher purpose, a dharmic purpose, to inquire, to ask questions, to find the answers, and change our lives and change lives of other people in a positive way. But if you're living the bear life, guess what? Krishna is very kind. He will reward us with such a body that we can enjoy. the sleep that we are so eagerly wanting. Or if one likes to have a lot of meat, one can enjoy the body of a tiger or a lion, etc., etc. I'm being very, very generalistic. Don't get me wrong. I'm also being slightly in a joking mood. But what I'm trying to say here is that karmically speaking, it has an impact. Sociologically speaking, it has an impact. Emotionally speaking, it has an impact. Physiologically speaking, it has an impact. So, as devotees, sometimes we think we'll chant Hare Krishna and that's about it. You know, Krishna has given chapter 6, and there are certain things that what we can apply in Kali Yuga, we should apply. Right? There's a lot of things we cannot apply, like the deer skin or the meditating in the forest and going to the secluded place, like we heard last time. Maybe those are not possible in Kali Yuga, but this is possible. So how much the quantity we eat, the kind of food we eat, the kind of sleep we get, you will see if you eat less, not too less, but just enough, and 4 hours before sleeping, you will have a better quality of sleep. And when you wake up, you will feel charged up, especially if you wake up at Brahma Muhurta, which is 24 minutes before sunrise or 24 minutes after sunrise. The 48 minutes is called Brahma Muhurta. If you wake up at that time, if you go to sleep at a proper time, 6 hours before Brahma Muhurta, wake up at that time, eat the right food at the right time, etc., etc. I know it's difficult, given the lifestyle, especially as entrepreneurs, very difficult. But do the best you can, right? Because this is not a process where it's black and white. You either do it or not, you go to hell. We don't say like that. That's not Vedic system. In our system, we do our best and Krishna does the best, right? But we have to do our best. We should give our 100%, and Krishna, kindly seeing that we are trying, he will give his mercy and he'll make arrangements so that we can fulfill those things. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Yogesh.
Prabhu, not sure if this question would be related to it or not. So let us say I have a craving for earning $1 million. Probably I have a craving for eating dal makhni or something like that. So would I, and I have this desire. So should I, feed those desires, or should I refrain from feeding those desires that I have? Or how does it actually, how do I just get rid of it? Or how do I get rid of those tendencies, or what is it? So for a
See,
fact, I know that
No, go
for a
ahead.
fact that I know that listening to Bhagavad Gita or any of the chitras or kathas of Krishna would burn away those desires, or Nama Sankirtana would that is chanting would burn away those desires. But when coming to this, I don't know.
Let's be
I think
realistic. Let's be
yeah.
realistic. So there are certain desires that we can fulfill. There are certain desires which might not be worth fulfilling, right? So we have to use our intelligence. We have to use our common sense. So, for example, if you're having a need for dal makhni, sure, make it, offer it to Krishna and eat it. What's the problem, right? But if you're having the urge to eat an animal's leg or animal's liver, better to restrain. At least think, what am I about to do? Is it really something I need to do? Can I push it to Sunday, right? Let's say, okay, we are not vegetarians. Can I make it that once a week I do this, or twice a week I do it? Like certain days of the week I do certain things, right? Same thing with vegetarianism also. A lot of families, what they do is they have certain recipes or certain food schedules, right? Okay, Italian on such and such day, Indian on such and such day, salad on this day, So like that, what happens is there is a regulation, because the mind is always going to say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And as you become slave of the mind, you what happens, right? Then it's the mind wants more and more and more and more, and it becomes more bossy as you feed it. So you need to starve the mind. You need to starve the mind's desire. You do what is required. If there's something you cannot absolutely live without, fine. Krishna, I am trying, but here there's a situation. This is the best I can do. kindly help me so that I can rise above this situation. We pray like that, and we do the needful. We either reduce it or we do the needful. So Krishna is not cruel. We are at whatever stages. We should recognize where we are, and to the degree, like I said, try your best. Krishna will do the rest. It's like, there was a time when for me, I was like, no way in hell I'm ever giving up meat eating. I can love Krishna without having to give up meat eating, right? No way in hell am I going to do that. But there was a time when I realized this is not very kind to certain living entities. This is not nice. I shouldn't do it. And then I started praying to Krishna, my dear Krishna, if you so desire, uplift me, uplift my consciousness from this, so that not only the kindness and compassion, but my tongue actually listens to my mind. I don't want to, but the taste is such that I am forced. So Krishna kindly help me. So a little bit my push, Krishna's mercy with the rest, and eventually the right arrangement came, and I was like, okay, now I can give it up. Right? So use
So
your
this can
intelligence,
apply for everything.
work with Krishna. Work with Krishna as a person. That's why we don't. God is not energy. God is a person, and that's the beauty of it. You can work with him. He's working with you. Right? That's the part of it. Be honest. The Krishna, this is my honest situation. Don't pretend in front of Krishna. Or to yourself. Don't pretend in front of you also that I am become something great and I cannot do this. How did this happen to me? Right? There was this great sadhu. He was very proud, and everybody knew that about him. And why was he proud? Because he would do three sandhya perfectly on time, and all the brahmana duties he would do perfectly. And one day during, so three sandhya means the transition time, that 8 hours that we have in a 24 hours day. So every sandhya there is brahmanas do Gayatri mantra chanting. So this guy during the 12 o'clock, the noon transition, he fell asleep. And Durga Devi, Maya Devi personally came in his dream and woke him up, like, hey, wake up, you have to do your sandhya. He woke up and he did his sandhya and Vandanam and all of that. And he was thinking, how come Maya came to remind me of this? Shouldn't she have kept me sleeping? And then he came to, Maya Devi actually told him that, well, you're proud of you being a great Brahmana. So I want to make sure you stay in that pride, in that Maya, right? Because if you were to break that, if you were not to miss a Sandhya Vandanam, you would have become humble. You would have felt, oh my God, how could I do this? And you would become humble, that I am also fallible. And that would be not good. So I am making sure I'm doing my job, keeping you in Maya, Satvika Ahankar, right? So in the Sattva Guna, in mode of goodness, you have your Ahankar, that you're a great person. So that sometimes happens to us also, right? We think we're chanting Hare Krishna, we are doing this, reading this Bhagavad Gita. Oh, we are above everybody else. And that's pride. And that's the beginning of the fall, right? So it's important that we understand and we recognize it, and we stay humble, and we honestly tell ourselves, hey, you know what? I want to listen to that Bollywood music. It's not leaving my head. Might as well listen to it. Give it 3 minutes of my life and get over with it. Otherwise, for the next 3 days, I'll keep hearing it in my head. Right? Again, this is something very, I'm telling you practically. Probably ISKCON devotees on YouTube and other places won't say this because, you have to be politically correct. I am known for not being politically correct. I am known for being honest. And I'm telling you the honest thing. We are all struggling. We all have some scars from past, and we have to just be honest, embrace it, accept it, and still move on. Push our limits to move and become a little better every day, little better every day, little better every day. If we stop pushing, then, then we lose out. As long as we're pushing for excellence, it's good enough.
Okay, this makes it clear. Thank you, Prabhu.
That's what Krishna sees. He sees the heart. He says, are you trying your hardest? Are you really sincere? Do you have the desire to even move forward? Some people don't have the desire, and that's okay. That's fine. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Text 17. Next verse. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapnabha bodhasya Yoga bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. The verse I was just talking about, right? So, entertainment is also important, work is also important. Arjuna is saying, I want to run away. Krishna is saying, fight. This is your work. You cannot just quit your work. Many times people are like, I'm going to become a sadhu. I'm not going to work anymore. That's escapism. And unfortunately, materialists think spiritualists are escapists. But guess what? Friday night, right now, most bars are full. That's the real escaping. Escaping reality by drinking alcohol, taking intoxication, taking drugs to get a temporary relief from all the pains. What does Arjuna like people do? They go at the problem right head to head and fight it out, face it and solve it and move on with life. Right? That's the best way to do it rather than shove it under the carpet, under alcohol, under this and that, and excuses. We are not escapists. We face our problems head to head because we have the means to solve the problems. We have Krishna in our chariot. That's what empowers us. So no problem is problematic for us because we're like, you know what? Yes, Krishna says there will be problems, there will be happiness, there's distress. If there's distress, we need to work on it. We cannot just hide away from it. So there needs to be time allocated for that. There needs to be time for chanting, time for working, time for entertainment, Netflix, if that's what your entertainment is. For others, it might be kirtan. For others, it might be bhajan. For others, it might be, I don't know what, right? So there's time for everything allocated. When then there is a happy life. Anything missing, family life. Call your parents if you're not with your parents. Call your grandparents. They miss you. So that's also important. Every aspect of a life needs to be covered, and it needs to be focused on and allocated, and that's balance. And that's what yoga system. That's what chapter 6 is teaching us. So controlling the mind means your mind is with all aspects of your life, right? I have been mentoring devotees and now entrepreneurs. Literally, I don't know how many hundreds of people are there. And by Krishna's mercy, because of chanting and the meditation practice I've had for 15, 20 years, right? There's always thoughts of persons. I don't forget people, right? Thoughts of people that, oh, this reminded me of you, or that reminded me of you. I'm writing to them like, whoa, remember me? Of course I remember you, right? And I'm not saying there's something great about me. That's the ability Krishna has given because, when you have that kind of lifestyle, you're able to balance even that level on such a vast scale. Of course, it helps. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Right? That's an advantage I have. But that allows me to extend myself to a lot more people. Think of them, their problems, whose grandmother is sick, whose somebody is in hospital, who's going through COVID, who doesn't have a job, all kinds of things come to me. And they're not necessarily devotional problems. They are very practical problems people face. And I'm constantly thinking, praying, and trying to figure out solutions, connecting people to resources, making sure that somehow or other these things get solved. Right. And that happens only when one can have balance over all things, especially starting with the sadhana part. That's the battery, that's the power, the chanting and the hearing process. When Krishna is there, when we charge the Krishna batteries, then everything else, we can focus on family, we can focus on outreach, we can focus on our work, we can focus on charity, we can focus on all aspects of our life, right? And do tremendous amount of things that are apparently humanly impossible. One of our acharyas in our disciplic succession, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had 10 children. He was the district magistrate of Jagannath Puri, right? And he would finish his work in 2 hours. He would chant 64 rounds in a day, which takes 8 hours to chant. 64 rounds. We chant 16 rounds, right? He chant 64 rounds in a day. He had 2,000. What we're doing right now, Philosophy Friday, is called a Bhakti Vriksha or a Namahatta. He had 2,000 Namahattas throughout Bengal and Orissa that he was managing. He was writing books, poetry, songs, glorification of Krishna, right? And when I first went to Mayapur, I went to his house. I saw the innovations he came up with. My God, And his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, oil-powered fan 100 years ago, right? He made the whole Krishna Leela with robotics 100 years ago, powered by oil. This is robotics. Krishna, killing this demon. Here's all the Gopas coming, lifting Govardhan Hill. Like, wow, 150 years ago. How did he do that? Somebody's mic is on. Can it be muted? Thank you very much. Okay. So why? How that? Now, I'll glorify Bhaktivinoda Thakur for a couple more minutes. Just bear with me. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with his 2 hours of work, right? Other magistrates would take 8 hours. He would do 2 hours. Here is what his work would be. So he would, so back in the day, magistrate was like a judge, right? So there would be like different kind of hearings happening. So he would be reading the case. He would be hearing the case and be writing the judgment simultaneously, almost, right? And by the time the thing is over, judgment would be given. And judgment, what kind of judgment? He would give them options: 6 months in jail or 64 rounds of chanting for 6 months, right? And the British government allowed that. Today with a secular government, but British government allowed that. Why? Because they said, whatever this man does, it works. He's highly efficient. Whatever he does, it works. So let him give innovative punishments. So the thief got either six months in prison or 6 months of chanting Hare Krishna. They would choose 6 months of chanting Hare Krishna. If they didn't chant, there'd be a police visiting randomly just to see. If not chanting, go to jail, right? So he would do innovative things like that. And it was totally acceptable. And by the way, there was only two people in India at that time, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who were in such a high position in the British government, because the Britishers didn't think us any better to be in such high positions, right? So he was a historic personality. Now, one more minute on Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So when he decided, I'm enough of this job, I don't want to serve the British anymore. I'm done with it. I'm not going for my job. The British said, what can we do to make ease your life? So he said, it's too much time commuting every day, doing your job. I'm done with it. Let me just do my thing, preaching and whatnot. So the British said, well, commuting is too hard for you. Fine. Instead of the train station, you don't have to go to the train station. We will bring the train lines to you. So even today, if you go to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house in Godruma Dweep, there's train tracks that connect his house to Krishnanagar, right? They actually built train tracks in front of his house. So the train would come to his doorstep. He would get on the train and he would go to work. Now, this is the equivalent of giving a private jet to a magistrate today, right? That's what the British government was doing. Why? Because he was so good. They couldn't rule without him, right? 2 hours he would work in a day. And that was so effective that they put train tracks in front of his house, literally. So how is it possible? When you have this, balance. So at time, I'll actually share in the WhatsApp group with you Bhaktivinoda Thakur's schedule. What time he would wake up, what time he would have breakfast, what time he would write, what time he would respond to letters, what time he would go to work, what time he would come back. Afternoon nap also he would take. It was like clockwork. Amazing. And you read his poetry, I tell you, you will go mad. So heart touching, so empowering. When I was living in the temple, a monk's life, I'm a guy who likes luxury. I'll be very honest with you. I cannot sleep on the floor. It was very difficult, those 3 months of being a monk. And there was one day I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm done with this. I'm going to move out. And somehow 3 brahmacharis, 3 monks were talking amongst each other, and they were mentioning Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I just remembered one line from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, and I was like, okay, I can do this, And I was just bouncing in energy. That's the power of his poetry. It's so charging, so empowering. And it is said that it is same as scriptures. The scriptures are in Sanskrit, complicated language. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs are in Bengali, and it's very simple, easy to understand. Now it's also translated in English, so you guys can also read it. But the point is, it's very easy to understand, and it complete essence of the scriptures is encapsulated beautifully in these simple poetry and songs, which are no more than maybe 4 to 8 stanzas, right? But in that, he gives so much depth that it just moves your heart and gets to you exactly what you need to know. Now, how was he managing? Sorry, one more minute of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Forgive me. I can talk about him for hours. I'm such a big fan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he was managing 2,000 Namahattas, right? You must be wondering, like 24 hours in a day, how was he doing this? So this is what he would do. He would do FAQs, right? These are the frequently asked questions. These are the frequently, these are the best answers to those questions. So what he would do, every village would have a panchayat, right? So every panchayat, because he was district government official, he had access the database to all of those people. So he would mail them the Q&A, and he would mail them his songs and poetry. So people were illiterate mostly. The panchayat would be literate person who could read and write, but other people wouldn't be literate. So they would sing the songs, and thereby they would get the understanding of the scriptures by learning Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs and singing it, and thereby getting the same thing as one would get by studying the scriptures like the way we are doing. This is a very academic exercise. Sanskrit, English translation, then purport, then going more into details. But for common people, villagers, farmers who don't have so much time, simple poetry, and thereby he was able to nurture them. And then quality control, whenever required, he would visit, quality control that. So that's how he kind of scaled. We talk about scaling our businesses, right? He scaled preaching so beautifully by giving these leaders tools in a very nice, what can I say, um, in a scalable way, right? He was able to create something, give it to all these 2,000 leaders, and they could in turn, take those tools and preach. So beautiful, and that's possible. And 10 children. Imagine 10 children and dealing with all of them. And he had children like Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, who's such a great scholar. At the age of 19, he was named Surya Siddhanta. That means he was more than a NASA scholar. He had he had like a PhD equivalent of space science, right? And astrology. And he was speaking 6 languages. And he could just, go through a book, and he had memorized the whole thing. And that was Bhaktisiddhanta, a son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And like that, he had many children like that. So point is, amazing as a father, amazing as an administrator, amazing as a leader, amazing as a poet, amazing as a husband, every single way. He was just amazing. And so that's something we can appreciate, that what's the power of this. And its stems, its roots are from here, right? That he who regulates his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So all material pains come from indisciplined lifestyle. We never have enough time. Why? Because we are not prioritized properly. We are randomly doing this and that and this and that and getting distracted here and there and WhatsApp this and Instagram that. That's why we are not able to do a lot of things. We are able to do a lot of sideways activities, but moving forward, right? A lot of times as entrepreneurs will notice that, what am I doing all day? I'm doing so much work, but I'm not moving forward. And that's what we do with our incubation process at Kolkata Ventures. It's all about moving forward, setting milestones and dragging the entrepreneurs along so they don't get distracted. And that is also something I keep in mind. Like, I'm WhatsApping, are you progressing? Are you going forward? Seems like, no, I've not heard from you in a while. Oh, you remember me? Of course I remember you. I'm thinking of you, right? And if I don't think of someone, the beautiful thing is sometimes Krishna even reminds me. There was somebody, he's an investor. Suddenly I just wrote to him. I'm like, somehow I was doing Aarti and your name kept popping up. I don't know why you were in my mind. And he wrote to me, today's my birthday. I was like, wow, Krishna really loves you. Somehow he just kept on. Your name was coming in my mind. And he was also wowed and I was also wowed. But the point is, even if you forget, Krishna empowers you. Yoga Kshimam Vahamyam. I carry what you lack and I sustain what you have. Right. So it's the power, whatever in our capacity we do, but Krishna also empowers us in beautiful ways to cover all aspects of our life, and thereby making an example by going around telling people, hey, Hinduism versus this other religions and whatnot. I mean, people are doing that, but is it really effective? But when you live an example of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, that is real preaching. You know, St. Francis of Assisi said, preach all day and speak a few words if you have to. What does that mean? That means preaching is not about words, preaching it about example. And that's why the word acharya, those who teach by their example, is called acharya or by achar. By achar, they're doing prachar, right? By seeing Srila Prabhupada, people would learn so much. You know, I have been very fortunate to serve a lot of sannyasis during my US days when I was not so busy. You know, here I'm always like, anyway. So at that time, just by watching them, just by hearing their phone calls, just by seeing how they deal with problems, how they treat their disciples, everything was such a learning experience, right? By watching, it's mind blowing, especially my spiritual master, who I've been very very close to, and and that's what the example speaks far louder than anything else. So Krishna is saying that one can mitigate one's material pains by practicing the yoga system and regulating our habits, right? So when somebody comes to Krishna consciousness and they ask me, how do I get started with spirituality? And all of you, as you become teachers in spirituality, you will get that question also, right? How do I get started with spirituality? My apologies. Um, the answer is we start with telling them to balance their sleep, their food, their entertainment, and all of that. Schedule is the first thing. That's Amazon shipment. So, where was I? Um,
How do devotees get started?
that's how that's the first step is schedule, wake up at a certain time, go to sleep at a certain time, eat at a certain time, entertain, allocate X number of hours for entertainment, so that you're able to monitor your progress, right? Just like in a startup, we monitor the metrics, the revenue. We set a goal that this month, this revenue stream, this much revenue, this revenue stream, this much revenue, right? We look at our analytics, we look at our data. So same way, in our lives also, we should monitor our life. How much time is spent with family, how much time is spent on food eating part, how much time is spent on frivolous activities, which is also important, by the way. How much time is spent on actual work, right? When we take a note of this and we have alarms, we have our tools that we use it, you will see you become so much more aware. First thing that comes is awareness, then comes efficiency. Because once you become aware, oh my god, I'm spending so much time on screen time, I'm spending so much time on WhatsApp, I'm spending so much time on Instagram reels, right? Then we realize, oh my god, 8 hours just went like that. Okay, fine, from tomorrow let me reduce that by an hour, right? From next day, 1 more hour. So like that, we have to be gentle with ourselves. We have to really handle ourselves with care, right? Only then there will be sustainable change. If we are too harsh on ourselves, like I'm used to going to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and suddenly I decide I'm going to go to sleep at 10 o'clock. Good luck. Ain't going to happen, right? May happen for 2 days, but then you won't be able to sustain it. So half an hour by half an hour we can go back, right? If you want to make progression, half an hour by half an hour we can move our schedule here and there, right? At least give it a shape, that at least I'm saying entertainment is not unlimited. Entertainment is for X number of hours, work is for X number of hours, family time X number of hours, right? And then we enforce it that this has to be there. Family time, I will not take a phone call from work, or work time, I will not do anything to do with entertainment, right? Etc. Etc. So when we make our days into sections, only then we live an efficient life. And that is what is being talked about. Regulating means not getting rid of. Regulating means first regulation. Yogesh Prabhu was saying getting rid of desires. It won't go away so easily, but you can regulate it. Just like when somebody has cancer or a big tumor, what do the doctors say? The first thing is not to just cut it off. First thing is let it not spread further. Let's confine it first. Once it's confined, then we can weaken it, and then we can operate on it, right? That's so same thing with our lives also. Confine it, regulate it, and then we can operate it out, right? Otherwise it won't work. Okay, any questions? Anything, any realizations, anything you want to share, anything you tried that worked, any yogi tips? Okay, all right, moving on to the next verse. We have 10 more minutes. 18th text, anybody wants to read?
Yes, Prabhu, may I?
Please.
Yada viniyatam chittamam atmani eva vasistha tate nishparaha sarva kambyo yukta iti uchyate tada. Translation. And the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendency, devoid of all material desires. He is said to be well stabilized in yoga. The activities of yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic sensation from all kind of material desire of his sex is achieved. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. The perfectional stage can automatically be attained by a person in Krishna consciousness, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavad. Should I go?
It's okay. So step by step, right? Krishna is taking a step by step in sense control, mind control. So first, breathing control, right? Focusing on the tip of the nose. By the way, tip of the nose is not this, right? All the physical exercises leading to mind control, leading to lifestyle control, right? And then sex control, the control over the sex desire, which is the hardest, right? Only when one has control over food habits, sleeping habits, only then one can have control over their sex urges. Now, one might say why, right? Here is why. Because spirituality, the whole idea is I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. And physical attraction is about the physical body. The consciousness is absorbed in the body, right? And that is diametrically opposite to spiritual cultivation. Now, again, it is not a no, it is regulate. Regulated sex life, which means within marriage, not extramarital affairs, not having multiple affairs and this and that, right? Not like cats and dogs, for a particular purpose, so that the woman is not exploited, or the man in some cases not exploited, right? So there is a reason for everything. Also, too much sex desire leads to a person in many ways becoming weak, right? Most political persons or spiritual gurus also, you see them falling down is because of sex desire, right? They did something, speak big things, and then some lady, something, and before you know, they're out and gone. You know, this Baba, that Baba, great people. When it comes to sex desire, everybody falls prey. Even Vishnamitra, like people, great sages from the past, also same thing. So a man has more control over, man or woman has more control over their life when they have control over their senses, when they have control over their mind, when they have control over their intelligence, right? When you have the free will to think what you want to think. This is very important to understand. We are thinking that I want this. What we don't realize that I'm being influenced by what I'm exposed to, right? What I watch on TV, what I hear, what I see, what I've grown up with, all that is influencing my consciousness, leading to my desires. If I don't know about alcohols exist, I will never have the desire to drink alcohol. If I don't know that cars exist, I will not have the desire to drive a car, right? Now, certain things are natural within the soul, of course, biological activities, etc., but also spirituality. If you see the Aborigines or the Amazon forest dwellers or any tribe, although they're away from city life, away from civilization, they do have faith. They do worship mountains. They worship the rains, they worship the sun, they worship the waterfalls, etc., because that is innate to the soul, right? So there are certain things that we don't need to know, that is already within us, and there are certain things that are influenced through to us. So we have to be careful how we expose our minds, to what we expose our minds. If you watch a series, many of us are binge watching on OTT platforms, right? If you notice, if you're watching a criminal series, or if you're watching a very gory, fight, or something that requires a lot of shooting around, you will notice that consciously or subconsciously, as you're walking around the house, you are thinking, shooting. I used to play a video game called Need for Speed? Grand Theft Auto, right? And Grand Theft Auto has this thing where you just drag people out of the car and you drive over people. And when I was driving, it just, this desire was there, like, oh, how would it feel? And I'm like, man, that's demoniac. What am I thinking? But that's what happens, right? Your reality and illusion kind of sometimes merge. So how much are they going into your consciousness? Subconscious mind, how much are you letting these things go in, is the kind of impact you're going to have in your relationships, in your life, and your consciousness. So be careful, right? So that's why there should be a set amount, how much we entertain ourselves, how we entertain ourselves, what are the kind of things that we consider entertainment, right? What kind of food we eat, what kind of etc., what kind of association we keep, very, very important, what kind of friends we keep, right? Very, very important. So these are the things that allow us to control our mind, senses, and intelligence, and thereby we can do what we actually want to do in our lives, rather than our mind telling us, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, right? Like a nagging housewife or a house husband. Okay, anything else? Any questions? We have 3 more minutes. If
Hare
not,
Krishna, Prabhu. I
yeah,
just want to share one realization that I had. It was late last year, or probably early this year. So I had been praying to Krishna, hey, listen, I know you're there, but
that's
I
how you
don't know
talk to
what you
Krishna. Hey,
are.
listen.
I mean, I mean, it was in the initial stages back then, but yeah. So I was praying. I do not know what you are. So help me understand you. And it was after a couple of months, I got in touch with you, and I started developing that relationship with Krishna. So I actually would like to thank you for help, for connecting me to Krishna and nurturing this relationship. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. I'll share a beautiful actually story since you mentioned that. I met this devotee named Trinakarta Prabhu, and he shared with me, he was also from Chicago. So he had the same kind of conversation with God. He didn't know who God was. He was born in a Christian family. And he said, hey, if there's God, please reveal yourself to me. I want to know about you. And one day he drove to the forest with his dog, and his dog somehow from the forest somewhere picked up this book and brought him this book, and this book was called the Krishna book, right? He read the book and he felt this was probably from the aliens, because nothing made sense, nothing felt human, because Krishna was killing demons, Krishna was doing this and that, he was blue in color. So it's like, this must be an alien book, this is not made by humans. So he read that book and went to his best friend, and his best friend, who was an atheist, was like, you've gone totally nuts. And one day his best friend met the Hare Krishnas on the streets of Chicago, who gave him the Krishna. He bought the Krishna book, and he came to his friend Siddhartha Prabhu and gave him the book. And he said, look, I found a not eaten version of the book, because this other Krishna book was eaten by his dog. So he's like, I found a not eaten version of this book. And inside the book, there was a card to the temple, the address. And this devotee was like, whoa, these people exist on this planet also? That's amazing. And he ran to the local Hare Krishna temple and became a devotee. So it's amazing. When you pray to Krishna, Krishna, I want to know you, he really makes himself manifest in different ways. So it's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.